Out for you. You can interact with us on our social media platforms, of course, at X, we are at Morning Live SABC, and then also on WhatsApp, 078-459-1897. You're welcome to keep your voice notes to about 30 seconds also. And so as we continue with our rolling coverage now, just after 7 o'clock, let's continue to delve in further. Starting things off now as we continue with our rolling coverage, the funeral service of actor Presley Chweneyagae. It will be held in Pretoria this morning. He died last week at his home at the age of 40. Now, SABC News reported that Mokwepa is at the Presley Chweneyagae's hometown of Mahikeng in the northwest. Debogo, a very good morning to you. Earlier on, you were at the family home and you spoke to his aunt. Customary to his culture, some family members had to stay behind. But obviously, the funeral service is going to be taking place at around 8 a.m. We've looked at, the outpourings of love as those who have loved him and worked alongside him have paid their last respects. Perhaps outside of the family home, talk to us about what is happening outside as people continue to pay their last respects and remember him.
Good morning, Lizelle, and of course to the viewers. We are coming to you from the extremely cold yet silent streets of Motlhabeng village as Mahikeng, together with the country, as we are mourning the passing of Presley Chweneyagae. And I just want to highlight how, touching it is that even when the funeral is in Pretoria, the family here as well as the neighbors are dressed as if they are going to the funeral. You would know in African culture how, you dress up for the funeral, you make sure you have your doek on. They are not attending the funeral, yet they are paying such respect to him. I just want to talk to Zama, who is one of the elderlies who saw Presley growing up here in Motlhabeng. Mama, ke lebogela kwa gago. Presley wa fitliwa gompieno o mongwe wa batho ba ba moneng a gola ina se khantshwane a actor a bona dikgabo jalo le jalo. Re tlhalosetse fela gore wena ga utlwa ka ga phitlho ya gago ile wa ikutlwa jang?
Ke utlwile botlhoko thata ka re sa le monyane moshe re shebeletse re o tla re fihla re o tla gola pila rona mo a actor fela ye kwa le kwa re thuse mo botshelo bo bokete matsatsi a mare ne re na le keletso ya gore o tla re thusa dilong tse dintsi jaaka motšha a gola a sa le monyane wa tseba rena ba golo re tshwantse re thuswe ke bana ba rena be re ba tswalang ba tlang ko morago re ne re na le tshepo ya gore modimo o tla re thusa ngwano ya re utlwe botlhoko ha ise le gompieno wa bewa o tsamaile a ise a dire thata o na santsana a simolola go dira go bontle pela matlharona mo a thusa le setšhaba le bana ba banyane ba golang a ba rutloetsa gore ba tswelle pele ka botshelo re ne re na le keletso eo ya wa itse re utlwe botlhoko thata motho ka ro ka lela pele a wa itshwara gore morena ngwana ke o tsamaile pela matlharona re mo lebile re bona tse dintle fela mo go yena re bona botshelo bo bo tsweletseng pele ga tla gola o bua lena tle ga ya tlotla gantsi ke motho o na tletse di joke o na tlotla jang le wena ya o la tla tlotli monate a re dumela mama lady a le tsogile ya ke tla go fa drinking yana ya bagolo mo o heta kana ke renya ke nna ya bana nna a bue sentle he a tshege a ithatike yana ka trata mona fitla ha ke ditlogolo a itumele Presley wa itse modimo Thank you so much, Mama. That is Zama, one of the elderlies that saw Presley growing up, to his adulthood, becoming one of the best actors here in the country. She is highlighting there how he was always joyful. Whenever he came home, he will check on the neighbors, as he would always be funny, promising them some adult drink, as she is saying there, but
this is how the community is reminiscing on those memories as Presley Chweneyagae will be buried. The proceedings, of course, starting just around 8 o'clock. But from here in Mahikeng, community members remembering and respecting Presley, dressed as if you would think they are going to attend that funeral. Lizel, but for now, back to you in studio.
Thank you. Thank you for that update. Of course, it's heartwarming to see his relationship with community members, you know, throughout his life and times, never having forgotten where he comes from. Some fond memories and sentiments being echoed about his life and times there. And of course, you know, how despite it being so cold, they have symbolically come out to pay their last respects, dressing up as Tebogo has spoken about, as his legacy continues to warm hearts. As we take a look at more coming through at this hour, we're also going to be crossing to Ofense Sitimo, who is at the family home in Pretoria. Ofense, good morning. We've just spoken to Tebogo, who is in Motlapeng in Mahikeng, of course, in the Northwest Province now. But just outside his family home in Pretoria, there was that private family service that was taking place. You can see some activity that's happening behind you. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit more what's going to happen from here into as we edge closer to 8 o'clock for his funeral that's set to take place there.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you that, you know, I believe that we are coming literally to the final stages of the private prayer session that the family was actually having here before actually heading to Akasia Hall, where the official ceremony where everyone, the mourners, are actually going to assemble is set to take place. Well, let me just get out of shot so you can see some of the people who have gathered here. You can see mostly it's family members who have assembled here to sort of give condolences and to give support to the wife and the kids of Presley Chweneyagae. As I mentioned there earlier during my first crossing, I was speaking to the uncle who actually said that, you know, he was informed on the 27th of May at around 3 a.m. of the passing of Presley Chweneyagae, and immediately he informed the immediate loved ones so that they are also aware, and immediately they started heading to Pretoria in order to give some sort of support. Well, we know that Chweneyagae has left an indelible mark, you know, in South African drama, theatre and film scenes, especially after breaking into the industry with the Tsotsi, which actually won him an Academy Award. Well, if I can just mention some of his credits, we know that in 2005, that's when Tsotsi came out and he was playing the role of David. And then 2006, he did When We Were Black. And 2007, he did More Than Just a Game. 2009 was Menda City. 2010 he did State of Violence movie. 2010 also he also did the Africa United. He also did the Zama Zama, and he was also part of the cast for Mandela Long Walk to Freedom back in 2013, and he also did iNumber also in 2013. So as you can see at the moment, a lot of family members are actually making their way to the Akasia Hall. I believe they are just waiting for transportation that will actually take them there. We also had a lot of good things being said about Presley Chweneyagae, especially during the memorial service that was held at the State Theatre. We know there was another one that was actually held at his hometown of Mafikeng, but this particular one at State Theatre, that's when we heard people much older than him actually saying that, you know, the way he was so experienced and the way he was so in charge of his craft, some actually admired him. Even veteran actors were coming out to say that, you know, they called him Groot Man, which means an elderly man, because of you know, his stature within the dramatic arts, you know. And we know that a lot of messages of condolences have been coming through following the announcement of his passing on the 27th, with a lot of high profile actors also coming to grace his home on that particular day, the following day rather, when it was announced that he had actually passed on. Well, at this present moment, we're just monitoring things. We're monitoring the development as to when they will be heading to Akasia Hall, where we will be following those proceedings as the formal ceremony is set to begin at around 8 o'clock. Well, as things stand, the family is just moving out. If I can just get out of shot one more time, you'll see that they are currently singing and they are preparing to actually exit the home of Presley Chweneyagae, where the service will actually be starting later on today at 8 o'clock. Many of them actually braved the chilly cold weather, as you can know that we are in the middle of winter season, and a lot of people, well, because of the admiration and love that they have for Presley Chweneyagae, these elements don't actually mean anything to them, as they feel that they definitely have to pay their respects. We'll definitely be following proceedings as they continue, and as soon as there is an update, we'll definitely give it to you. And with that, it's back to you in studio.
Well, Vincent, thank you for that update. As we're speaking, of course, with the sun now having risen, we obviously know that funeral service, that special a prayer service happening just ahead of the funeral service at the family home there. Thank you for giving us an update as to the friends and family. There was a private service, so we obviously couldn't bring you those visuals from inside the home out of respect for the family. But we do know now that the family is going to be making their way to the Akasia Community Hall in Pretoria. And for more on this, SABC News reporter Griselda Lewis is also standing by. Griselda, earlier on, we just spoke about the setup ahead of the funeral that's set to be taking place around 8 a.m. We were just in conversation with Ufense, and we saw family, exiting the home. It seems like there is activity for those who are now going to be making their way to the Akasia Community Hall. What's transpiring on your end as family, friends and industry colleagues alike come to pay their last respects?
Yeah. Indeed, Liesl, we heard from our colleague Offense Sitimo, him speaking about many of the accolades and, many of the stages that Presley Chweneyagae had graced, and, the manner in which he conducted his work, always with precision. That's what we've heard over the past couple of days. And he'd gone on to inspire my colleague Offense Sitimo outside the home, talking about, how the older generation, even veteran actors, speaking incredibly well of this young actor who obviously achieved so much at his young age, talking about his work ethic, the manner in which he executed his duties, on screen. Every time they shared platforms with him, he always went the extra mile to ensure that he gave everything for the roles, that he was performing. And, while many South Africans, while those in the arts and many South Africans were inspired by Presley Chweneyagae and, the strides that he made in his industry, many people here in Pretoria really looked to him as a source of inspiration. A young man who went to go and defy the odds and obviously, reach international acclaim. And many of the people here in Pretoria actually saw themselves through Presley Chweneyagae. Now, you would know, Liesl, in his acting, when he was in front of our television screens, when he was on stage, you'd hear him speak isipitori. Now, isipitori is, come to Pretoria, you'll get to understand what I mean when I talk about isipitori. It's a language that is spoken by people in this area. I tell you, I've spent many hours on some broadcasts here in Pretoria. I'm still struggling to grasp isipitori, but I can pick it up here and there. But, the point is, many people in this area identified with Presley Chweneyagae and, how he spoke. He spoke isipitori. People saw themselves through him. And I hear that, at local radio stations in this area, when news of his passing, was made known, there was a flurry of calls into radio stations in this particular area, and many people, mourning with the family. I want to bring in a surprise Kuduga, who is one of the presenters at a local radio station here, Mapopane Rise radio station. Surprise, thank you so much. I mean, we'll really get a sense from you about how the listeners were even, really surprised, shocked by the passing of this man. First of all, let's talk about the influence that he had. He would speak isipitori, right? And young people, all people that could identify with that because he was one of your own.
Presley orishile ko mathateng or ko matlhokong as ko Pretoria re ko matlhokong wa di dad. So I would say to the family to Zegani alehlangele ngayihlile. Yeah, we've been playing the clips tsa hae tse re di kreiling from the TikToks, different TikToks, re di dlala go di radio stations arena. So now I'm from Mabopane Rise Radio. I'm a presenter there, so it touched me a lot. I'm also into entertainment industry, so it has touched me a lot. I don't wanna lie. I remember this scene more killing abolela are, hey wena beauty o ka re ngwanyana ko Gandalf o ka re emetse mavuso. That's the Pretorian language, so I'm so inspired. I was inspired by his work. Hey?
Yeah. And I mean the listeners, you know, as you were behind the microphone, the people calling in, talking about, you know, his talent, talking about how he conducted himself. What were some of the, you know, the listeners saying about this young man?
I could say most of the people, they were crying. Hey, I remember there's this one listener who called me because now I'm doing the Sunday shows. So he called me and said, "Yo, Sisi, I feel your pain. I feel your pain because it was all over on my WhatsApp status. I feel your pain. I think God knew guthi kuzoyenzakalana. So lalango qolo Cobrizi wa Marizi."
And I mean in Pretoria, him speaking Ispitori, you know, I was just explaining to the viewers that there's a different kind of language that is spoken in this area. I'm still trying to grasp it. I spend a lot of time in Pretoria, but I'll get there. But, you know, young people inspired by that, you know, inspired by him. He spoke a language that they could understand in that way.
Yes, he spoke the language that we could understand in Abantu Pitori, because obviously when you go to Jersey, they're like, "Oh, vele Pitori, can you please talk is Pitori?" I'm like, Pitori is Tswana, Sistakaneng, Lisi Zulu, Lisi Venda, Lisi Xhosa. It's all in one place in Jaya.
Surprise, thank you very much, and thank you very much for sharing with us those moments. Surprise Kuduga is a radio presenter here at Mabopane Rise. It's a local radio station in this area, telling us about how, you know, with Cobrizi having spoken Isipitori, you know, many people identified with him here. The language that he spoke, people in this area speak. So, you know, people saw themselves through him, that it was possible for someone, even though, of course, you know, him having come from Mahike and having spent time here in Pretoria, many people, you know, looking at him as a source of inspiration, that anything is possible. Having risen to such international acclaim, you know, many young people struggle to get into these spaces, but he demonstrated that it was indeed possible. We're hearing from Surprise Kuduga here that when news came of his passing, you know, many of the listeners called in and, you know, expressing their condolences, sharing in the loss of the family. So while many of the Pretorians were inspired by him, we can certainly say South Africa and the rest of the world certainly got a touch of the greatness that was Presley Chweneyagae.